Hello everyone and welcome to Helix Plays Games. My name is Richie and joining me this week is at CyberChris2077, Mr. Chris.
Hello everyone, hope you're gaming good.
Hello indeed. No Rob this week because he's busy with family, so all the best to him with that. But we have a great show lined up for you anyway, where we'll be discussing Final Fantasy coming to Xbox, what's coming to Game Pass for August 2024, and a pizza-scented controller. All that and much, much more in this week's XPass. But before we get into it, if you haven't already, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel or your podcast feed of choice with notifications kept on, so you get kept in the loop with all of the great content here at Helix Plays Games, such as our other podcast, Talking the PS, where we'll break down all the news happening on the Sony side of gaming, which goes live tomorrow, every single Tuesday, on YouTube and podcast services. We also have a weekly live stream where last week, Chris, me and you played FIFA, and would you like to tell the audience how well that went?
No, I wouldn't. We're not good at FIFA, it turns out. We're big football enthusiasts, fans, supporters. Evidently not good online anymore. And I feel like that's the way my life with online gaming has been, in a slow decline for the last 10 years. Used to be good at it. Slowly getting lesser. And now I think I'll just stick to single player for the most part.
What I find frustrating about FIFA is I think the AI sometimes is just absolutely batshit stupid. Like, players will just move out of position. It's like, what you doing? Or we had weird things where like we're trying to change it, just like you'd be making a run with a player and they just change your player. It's like, what you doing? Well, because we were playing co-op season, so me and Chris were on the same team versus strangers on the internet. And it was just like, because they suddenly changed position. Now I'm holding sprint and running the wrong direction. And it's just like, I guess they're things that you could get used to by playing cup seasons regularly. But although maybe you'd be tracking one of their runs with a player because that's what you would do in an actual game. And then change your player. And then the guy you had who was tracking the player would just stop. And suddenly their player be in space. So stuff like that just kept catching us out.
Well,
and
hopefully
like,
EA Sports FC is going to remedy all that this coming September.
EA Sports FC is just going to be FIFA 24 with a different colour of paint on it. And I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to both love it and hate it, like I have 23, like I have 21 and 22, 2019.
The problem of a sports fan.
Indeed. And make sure you catch us on all our socials, such as Twitter and Threads. We are over on Threads at Helix Plays Games. We have a Discord server. Links are in the description below. Chris, been playing anything interesting?
Finished the story on Final Fantasy 16 over in the Xbox World Game Pass. We've obviously just discussed. We've played FIFA, and I think I'm very, very close to the end of Hi-Fi Rush. Is my thing. I've not put as much time into it. It's not that long of a game. It's just in between Final Fantasy and life, finding any time to dedicate to gaming this past week has been quite hard. So, Hi-Fi Rush on the horizon. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I think I've said every time I talk about it, it's a fantastic game. It should definitely be in some kind of Game of the Year discussion. It won't win, but it should definitely be up there for the amazing title that it is. And I can't wait to see what the sequel looks like, because we will be getting one.
It's going to be in one of the other categories. I don't think it'll get into the Game of the Year conversation now. When you look at what's coming out this year, things like how well Final Fantasy 16's done. We've had things like Dead Space this year, Hogwarts Legacy. This year has been absolutely stacked. I think, unfortunately, in terms of that shortlist for Game of the Year, I don't think there's a space for Hi-Fi Rush in there. So, but I think it will win in another category, a more dedicated category. If there's like a rhythm game category.
I was going to say like a music and rhythm game. I can definitely see it there.
Yeah, I think the Game Awards need to bring out a new category for Surprise of the Year.
Surprise.
The game that caught people off guard the most, that people weren't expecting to be as good as it was. Hi-Fi Rush would win that category because no one knew it was coming till they had it. So,
yeah, what a stealth drop. How about yourself?
Not really much on the Xbox, just FIFA offline mainly on my career mode because we're now in the transfer window, so it's one of them points of the year where my interest in football spikes up again. So, but my main focus has just been getting to the end of Final Fantasy VII Remake, which I'm hoping I may have rolled credits on by the time this show goes out.
Ooh, and then you'll have to play it all over again when it comes to Xbox.
No, I will not be doing that.
You say that now? You say that now?
I say that now, but I think complete rolling credits in the game twice is sufficient.
Well, if they start with 1 now, Pixel Remasters, and then 2, then 3, by the time we get to 7 Remake, you're going to be in like your 60s.
By the time we get to another 7 Remake.
7 Remake 2. The squared.
Yeah. 7 squared. Final Fantasy 49.
0.3.
Oh, Chris. Would you like to introduce us to the...
I will like to introduce us to the excellently examined and excavated Xbox expose, aka the news.
The news. And as always, our news is brought to you by our Helix Heroes, which you can become from as little as 99p over on the YouTube channel at Helix Plays Games, where you get early access to shows such as Talking to PS, such as Lunar Listening, when Amazon actually do enough to make it worth us doing a show. Balls in your court on that one. Balls in your court, Amazon.
I keep forgetting we did that. Like, no disrespect to it, but I can't. There's nothing in my news cycle that tells me of anything new coming, anything fun or exciting happening. There's nothing for me to play because there's nothing new. Like with that list of games you just rattled off, like Hogwarts Legacy, Dead Space, like none of that has came to the platform. So
yeah,
sorry, folks, if you're after a Lunar show, it ain't happening.
If you're wondering, we haven't killed the show, but we do actually just need to have enough news to be able to produce a show. And the last 2 months, there hasn't been, unfortunately. So, if they drop a huge news dump and go, oh, there's loads of stuff to talk about, we'll produce one. We'll do one. We're happy to do one, but we don't want this to be a Sounds of Stages situation where we're trying to drag out a show when there's literally nothing to talk about for weeks on end.
Yeah, I don't want to be breaking down Iceland like every Lunar Plus retro game that I've never played, got no interest in playing. Nobody else really does either. But because it's coming, let's talk about it for 20 minutes. I don't want to live in that world. Yeah. Sorry, I've got more things to do with my time.
Exactly. I mean, I think Sounds of Stadia was propped up by Ubisoft Plus more than anything. So, like, hey, it's a Ubisoft game. We can talk about that. That's something to actually talk about that. We can actually reasonably expect to come to the platform.
Mm-hmm.
But
why would we talk about that?
We could talk about XPass and talking to PS now. So, unfortunately, that's the reality. Anyway, Chris, Final Fantasy is making its way to Xbox. Specifically, we're talking about Final Fantasy XIV Online. We're talking about this and then talking to PS about the new DLC and stuff, but Fortnite coming to Xbox.
Yeah, so this was revealed by Phil Spencer on stage at this past week's Final Fantasy Fest in Las Vegas. So he took the stage with the producer and director of Final Fantasy XIV, Nakai Yoshida, aka Yoshi P, and broke down the announcement that Final Fantasy Online is coming. Now, I didn't know prior to this week that 14 was the online version, and you clarified that, yeah, it's like basically it's a bit of a different type of game, MMO RPG. There's certain words in this breakdown that I understand now, like mother crystals. I understand what they are. I understand what like icons are and stuff like that. So I feel like I have a bit more context than I did previously.
Well, icons will change from game to game.
Yeah, but in terms of the game itself, this is big news for Xbox, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is a 13-year-old game, so I think it's a surprise that hasn't made its way over yet, because it's seemingly one of them games where it's almost you can almost look at the lifespan of it in two halves, where it came out, it did quite well, and then just seemed to fall into the background and didn't really get that much buzz about it. It was just like, when you get a game, it's got a solid core fan base there, it's just ticking over. Mm-hmm. And then I think maybe 4 or 5 years ago, it just seemed to just come right back up in the forefront. I think maybe an expansion at that time.
Like Games as a Serve, like not games. There was a Game Awards title that it won, and I can remember at the time thinking, over Fortnite and PUBG and whatever it was about 2 or so years ago, how does Final Fantasy Online win like best? It was like service to fans or ongoing support or something like that. And I guess this is a testament to where, as you said, many years later, it's still going to get brought to a new platform, and it just shows you that if there's enough attention and love and fan base there, for them to actually go, right, is it worth putting money in to port this? And that's just the beginning, though, seemingly from Phil Spencer and the team.
Indeed. So it is finally coming, potentially 13 years late, but it just, to me, this shows the conversations, because Phil has lamented Xbox's relationship with Square in recent years, and this shows that he's actively trying to fix it, in my view. So we should mention as well, this comes out in spring next year, so it's still a ways out.
Yep.
And you will have 4K support, faster load of times, with an open beta coming soon, so you'll be able to get on the beta. But I guess you're like me, where you're not really interested in this Final Fantasy with it being an MMO.
I said on Talking the PS that I think now I've fully understood and appreciated the enjoyment of a Final Fantasy game, albeit 16 is I've heard it's quite splitting on with the fan base if it's not quite a Final Fantasy game because it's more action focused, but then if that brings in new audiences like me, then is that not what you want from the brand? And every iteration of Final Fantasy has always been different. It still has chocobos, it still has icons, it still has mother crystals, so it's got enough of a thread there to tie it all together. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. However, I don't think it's worth my time maybe going back and experiencing older titles. I think going forward, I've got a keen eye out for whatever Final Fantasy 17 is, or 16.2, or whatever direction you want to take it in. When this comes out on Xbox, it might be something that it piques my interest and I check it out and go, you know what? It's got me. But at this moment, I'm just more happy that it's coming to the platform than I am from a personal standpoint.
Yeah, same. I think it's a good get for the platform because it is an ongoing. It's one of them few MMOs that seem to just be continuing to go. Where MMOs, you hear about them come around, then a couple of years later you go, oh my god, that's still going. Then the year after that is usually, it's getting service shut down. Things like World of Warcraft as being like the obvious exception. Mm-hmm. I think in a different period of my life, I could have been very much excited by this, but I just don't want to get sucked into an MMO. I like to have a clear endpoint to my games nowadays. That's why I'm not big into games as a service. As much as I do actually enjoy them when I play them, I like to move on to the next thing because I think there's so many great games out there, so many great stories to play through. I don't want to get to a point where I'm in a game where I'm logging on every day to do my daily quests to grind out, so then once a week I can go do the raid, and it becomes almost like a second job at times. That's how World of Warcraft went for a while for me. Yeah. And I just don't want to do that anymore. But yeah, great game, great get. But Square Enix have actually personally thanked Phil Spencer, saying it wouldn't have been possible without the Xbox as boss, or as I prefer to call him, the X-Boss, is interactions. So Phil himself said he enjoyed being on stage with Yoshi P and Kiryu-san to announce Final Fantasy XIV coming to Xbox. We're thrilled that the Xbox community will join the Warriors of Light, and we look forward to partnering closely with Square Enix on future games. I think this is an important milestone actually for that relationship. It feels like a turning point.
Yeah, I think looking beyond Final Fantasy, Xbox fans have always lamented Square Enix's kind of like special relationship they've had with Sony, and you just have to look at like this summer. We mentioned Final Fantasy 16, that PlayStation nab exclusive rights for seemingly probably like a year, we would imagine, for this title. And exclusives, like when they're built in-house with first party, you expect it, but when it's second party deals or third party, it always kind of just stings a little bit more because there's nothing preventing it from being on this platform other than business deals and money. And like, if you're an solely Xbox player right now, you could be playing Final Fantasy if Sony hadn't wrote a check big enough to convince Square to port it exclusively over, and that's frustrating. I remember when Xbox did the same for Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider, the second entry in a trilogy, and it pissed me off because I had to wait a whole year to play it on a PS5 because I didn't have an Xbox at the time. I'm a big trophy fan, and in my mind, Lara is pretty much a PlayStation icon, but not an icon, Richie. Don't get carried away like that. Not that type of icon. But it just, it's one of them. I'm never really a fan of exclusive games if they're not made internally. But these deals, they exist for a reason, and I think, as you said, Phil's struggled with it over some time, and their position in Japan's kind of probably influenced it a little bit. But that, I'm glad that hasn't closed the door permanently, and seemingly all the stuff he's doing with Game Pass and PC and buying Activision, Blizzard, King is going a long way to widen their brand, and I think getting more of these developers on side is a win all round, and this is just the starting point.
I think when you look at the relationship and the history of it, Square Enix with Final Fantasy started on the Nintendo. That's the origins of it. Then it switched over to PlayStation in the PS1 era. So it's become synonymous with PlayStation because arguably the best game on the PlayStation 1 is Final Fantasy VII. There's debate. I know there's a reasonable debate in that, but it's definitely in the conversation. So, and then when you look at things like you mentioned, was it Rise of the Tomb Raider was Xbox timed exclusive? But that's one where I felt like you was getting deprived from other platforms. So that's what I think upset people.
Oh, undoubtedly.
Where Square have always been happy to bring out exclusive games for Sony and for Nintendo. You look at things like Octopath was originally a Switch exclusive. Oddly came to Xbox, was taken off Game Pass, and Octopath 2 is now on PlayStation. So this kind of that's a modern example that kind of shows the nature of the relationship, whereas almost like Square kind of felt a bit dismissive of Xbox for a while. They're happy with Nintendo. You got things like the Bravely series. That's very much from Nintendo. That's very much Nintendo. You got Octopath, which was Nintendo exclusive at one point in time. A lot of the Final Fantasies are PlayStation exclusive, and then Microsoft has sat there going, "Can we have a game, please?"
Yeah, well, we've seen, thanks to all the FTC fallout, is the conversations around a lot of the developers sometimes look at Xbox, especially Japanese-centric, and go like, it's not worth our time and money to port it because it just doesn't sell the numbers. Like, that's the reality is Xbox isn't known for that. Therefore, the audience, the fan base isn't there. The players are not there on Xbox. But then that's now on Phil Spencer and his team to garner that interest, to grow that understanding, and things like Persona, the deals they've got with Sega to bring their titles over. That's the groundwork you need to put in. So in a decade's time, people do look at Xbox and go, I can play Final Fantasy there. I can play Persona there. And I think, again, Phil's doing great things. He's a very likable guy. But from a business standpoint, if they're looking at the next decade, then, yeah, this groundwork needs to be done now. And it's great to see that Yoshi P and the team are coming out and saying, like, we're thrilled that it's happening. We're looking forward to partnering more closely. Because the reality is, we want Square Enix games to be there in the future.
Yeah. And this also, we have to remember, there's been a lot of rumours about potentially Sony buying Square Enix, which probably is one of the... I think that's probably the moment where Phil's probably going, we just can't let that happen. We need to get in good with these guys. We need to get their games coming. We need to make it so Square Enix are less inclined to make their games platform exclusive unless they're made from the ground up by these. But core franchises like Final Fantasy, for me, it shouldn't feel like they shouldn't be platform exclusive.
Well, yeah, to put it into like a different perspective, if you took... This is because Square Enix is one of the biggest third-party players. You've got EA, you've got Ubisoft. Imagine if EA games just went on PlayStation.
Imagine
like if every other EA game,
If Assassin's Creed was Xbox exclusive, that's the kind of level we're talking about when Final Fantasy is PlayStation exclusive. Yeah,
but Watch Dogs and Skull and Bones is on PlayStation as well. But for some reason, the brand specific to Assassin's Creed is Xbox. It's like such an oddity that a third party company wouldn't just do it. And again, money talks. If Sony go to them and go like, "Here's $10 million for Final Fantasy exclusivity," then Square Enix is going to go, "Deal, I'll take $10 million to do that." Because we also saw Forspoken, brand new IP, and I've theorized quite a few times.
But it didn't work. Exclusive.
I've theorised Forspoken was part of the Final Fantasy 16 deal. Like, if you're going to take one, you got to take our little annoying brother that no one really likes, but he has to come along to the party anyway because he's family. That's the kind of deal I think Forspoken was. So hopefully, as games become more expensive and as evidently Microsoft are willing to throw money around, if they can afford $6 billion to acquire Activision, they can shave off a couple $100 million maybe to sweeten up Square Enix. And I think this deal behind the scenes definitely hasn't come free, to say the least, I don't believe.
No.
It's not like a mutual partnership. It has to be financially beneficial for them as a business.
But, I mean, it's an ongoing thing. It's games as a service. I think Microsoft will probably make the money back on this, but it also puts the relationship between the companies in a better place, and it potentially opens the door to other conversations, because there is other beloved Final Fantasy games that are, well, they've just been brought up, and Pixel Remasters 1 to 6. there's games in there that could be ripe for remakes.
Absolutely.
In the way Final Fantasy VII was. So, and I think some of them will probably be even a safer bet than Final Fantasy VII because they're not as high profile. So Microsoft has this potential there. If Microsoft went to Square, look, we're interested in 6. Final Fantasy 6 has got a very strong cult following. Not quite as strong as 7, but it's there. So we're interested in 6. Can we talk about maybe doing a 6 remake? We'll help you finance it. Or maybe bring this as an Xbox exclusive. There's stuff to be done. I don't know where the IP rests in terms of ownership for 6, in terms of licensing agreements, because I think that was a PS1 exclusive.
Yeah.
But maybe an older one that was a Nintendo game back in the day. I think there's potential for these conversations, and even conversations outside Final Fantasy could happen. We might get Octopath 2 on Xbox, on Game Pass, because Octopath 1 was there.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff that could happen in a huge back catalogue, but as I said, it's you need to plant the seeds now for that influence to be stronger or better than it's ever been in a decade's time. Like, we know Xbox have self-admittedly they're in third place, and a lot of that is possibly, arguably, down to they're missing a big pillar of the industry, which is the JRPG side, the Japanese side, and they're doing that with Persona, Final Fantasy. Get them there, and the biggest fans might not be there now, but in 10 years' time, Richie, when Final Fantasy VII Part 3 comes out, if it's on Xbox and it's maybe not exclusive, but it goes into Game Pass, your decision is, do I spend 80 quid on the game outright, or do I just play it for free on Game Pass? And that's the question that if Xbox and Microsoft can get that question into people's minds is it worth buying it outright, or can I just put it on Game Pass? That's where they get the subscription. That's where they get the buy-in. And then, like you and me with our Series S's, that's how it started. And then, like I think to this day, probably might have Game Pass for the rest of my life if it keeps being as valuable as it is. So, and they got us in the door on sheer the value proposition.
How much I'm paying a month is largely inconsequential. I'm lucky enough to be able to say that. I mean, money can be tight at times. But the money is reasonable enough that I can justify paying it every month. So then if they keep that value service up, I think it's worthwhile me keeping it. And you look at some of the other franchises, things like I already mentioned, Chrono Trigger, that's a Square title. That could make a comeback. I know there's people probably out there desperate for Chrono Trigger, because I think that's one of them games that's just kind of stuck on maybe the SNES. Back in really hard to get your hands on properly. I know they've remade it, but when they do like a port like mobile, it's just nowhere near the same experience sort of stuff. Yeah. I think it's suffered from stuff like that. The Legend of Mana series and stuff. There's these other franchises that not the big hitters like a Final Fantasy, but they're much beloved and they're potentially ripe for the picking for Xbox to go, right, we want this franchise over. Let's pay for the ports. We'll get them on Game Pass. And suddenly Square are going, okay then. And it builds that library. But let's move on to something that Xbox do not want you to do. Xbox is beginning handing out 15-day bans for people using emulators on the Xbox in retail mode. So previously you could use emulators on development mode, but then you'd have to go through a process of changing your Xbox over to development mode, which meant that I think there's stuff like you couldn't use retail copies of games. But now I think there's been a workaround, and Microsoft are kind of really pushing against it. It's a very Nintendo move, this, to be honest.
I mean, should you be using the tech to emulate things? I think because it's not always the concern with these companies is that it creates potentially a backdoor for being hacked and their infrastructure being weakened or lessened. If someone can get into your machine and play things that shouldn't be running on your machine, they could also breach your security protocols and otherwise. So I'm a bit confused because it says retail model, which is this. So this is dev kits that are sent out to game developers.
No, it's your Xbox. You can hack your Xbox to go into development mode. By default, it'll be in retail mode, but you can hack it to go into development mode.
It's a retail mode being something a consumer's purchased.
Yes.
I bought it from retail.
Yes, the Xbox that is currently on the shelf behind me is currently operating in retail mode.
Right, okay.
So previously you could not use emulators in that mode. Where if you got into development mode, you could, because the idea is it's there for development, so you could effectively use your Xbox as a dev kit where emulation could help the development of a game, especially things like the porting process, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, the Microsoft have given an update on this story, actually, that says the information currently circulating on Twitter is not accurate. Our actions are based on a long-standing policy on content distributed to the store to ensure alignment with our Microsoft Store policy. Per Article 10.13.10, products that emulate a game system or game platform are not allowed on any device family. So there's the official statement from Microsoft, which... we're both fans of emulation if the game doesn't exist anymore, but I think maybe do it on an open source software like your PC. Don't do it necessarily on a dedicated console. Like, what benefit do you even get from that? Like, other than your controller, but you can use that on PC.
If you don't have a PC, or you've only got a crap laptop or something, or a tablet or something, and your Xbox is your gaming machine, I can see the benefit there. I think there is an ethical grey area around emulation in general, where I personally think if you cannot actually buy a game by emulating the game, the company who owns the rights isn't losing out because they're not willing to sell it to you. So there's no financial loss. So yes, you are breaking the law, you are infringing on their IP, but I think ethically you can square that away because no one's actually out of pocket on that. If you can buy the game, I think it becomes a different story. I have still done it, but some companies are just very, very hard. I know Nintendo were probably the worst hit by emulation, to be fair.
Yeah, but they've got like the biggest legacy, haven't they? But it's just interesting reading some of the things on social media about this, where there's like a few people who dedicate themselves to the emulation standpoint, and they've screenshotted where it pops up with the error message saying, yeah, it violates Microsoft Store policy, it's not supported. And they're like commenting on Phil Spencer saying like, we've got no choice but to emulate, #let us emulate. For the past 2 years, we've promoted legal emulation on a popular platform that people have enjoyed. It's a true shame to see Xbox crack down on emulation for those who can't afford developer mode or don't have means to purchase it. But at the same time, I'm like, Microsoft don't make an Xbox for you to emulate other people's games, so...
I kind of believe developers need to be paid for the work. Like... That's why I think the ethical discussion regarding whether if you can buy the game, you should buy the game. You should support the developers, because if you don't, you won't get new games because the developers won't make money, which means they don't make the profit, which means they don't have the funds to invest in the next development cycle. So that's why I'm kind of like, I know there's times when you could, for Final Fantasy 16, you could probably just give me the disc, but I'm probably going to buy it myself because I want to support the development of future games. I also like to have the stuff myself, to be fair. But it's like, in fact, I do have emulators installed on my PC right now, and I do use them, mainly for Pokemon games. I own them. I own the games. So I don't feel like I'm doing anything ethically wrong there because I actually own the games. It's just more convenient to play on my PC. I have the hardware, I have the game, I can play.
Yeah.
I have emulated games that I don't have, though.
Yeah. And again, I'm not saying that you shouldn't emulate games, especially ones that are inaccessible anymore, but maybe just not do it through a dedicated platform for Xbox games and PlayStation and Nintendo.
Well, this is it. I'm saying you can't complain about Xbox acting on their policies that you have agreed to that have been in place.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, unfortunately. Anyway, let's move on, Chris. So, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 has basically just been revealed.
Ooh, Call of Duty. We don't talk about Call of Duty that much, I think, but you know what's happened in recent... I don't know whether because I'm wrapping up on Final Fantasy and I've got that... There's a window of time in my schedule, Richie, for something to play. And between now and Spider-Man 2, which is quite a large window, albeit I've got all of August, September, and most of October, and there's nothing really out there for me yet. So I'm kind of like what got me into Final Fantasy was like I have that window, I saw what was around, and I've kind of been having, I think because of all the Activision Blizzard King talk, I'm like, you know what, Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remaster, the 1 and 2, or reboot, whatever they were, the last two entries, 1 and 2, they kind of got me thinking, do I want to go back and play a Call of Duty campaign? But you're here to talk about the Call of Duty 2023 specifically, because Activision, somehow we get to August and they still refer to this year's edition as COD 2023 rather than just give it its name. They always hold the marketing off until the last minute and then they go all out. So what's this story then?
It's basically just that. The heavy rumours that the next Call of Duty 2023, as it's been kept being called, is going to be a Modern Warfare 3.
Right.
That's about all the information we have at the moment on this, but it seems about right. We've had a remake of Modern Warfare. We've had a remake. Did we have a remake of Modern Warfare 2? Or was it just a part?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, that was the last one, I think.
So the logical progression is a remake of Modern Warfare 3. Was there a Modern Warfare 3 previously?
Yeah, back in 2011. I've just checked that myself because I don't
Yeah.
recall playing it. But then there's been so many Call of Duties. That's the problem. I can't remember which ones I've played when I dropped off it, because I did play a lot of them. Like that, I like most gamers. That was my annualized thing. Is Call of Duty. I got Call of Duty and FIFA every back end of the year. As soon as we started creeping up on Christmas, it was like, oh, here we go. Midnight launch. Go stand in the queue. Get FIFA at midnight. Play it till 5 a.m. foolishly. And then same for Call of Duty. You pick it up. You blast through the campaign. You'd hit multiplayer with your friends, and it was just one hell of a time. But I can't remember. Now we're into that kind of reboot Resident Evil remake scenario. It's getting a bit more convoluted. So we had 2003 was the OG Call of Duty. Call of Duty 2, 2005. So you're talking back in like 360 days and stuff. Call of Duty 3. But then we really kicked off, we know, after everything with Modern Warfare in 2007. That was like the pinnacle when it started to get really, really high. We got World of War. Enjoyed that one. Call of Duty Zombies. Call of Duty Zombies was introduced in World at War, so big shout out to the Zombies. Modern Warfare 2 for me was like, we're here. We're in the best time of our life right now. We in particular in college, had all the time in the world, play video games, everyone. Black Ops, then we had Modern Warfare 3 2011, Black Ops 2 2012, Call of Duty Ghosts, unfortunately, in 2013. Advanced Warfare, when they try to mix it up a little bit. Black Ops 3, Infinite Warfare 2016, World War 2 2017, 2020 Black Ops Cold War, which was just on PlayStation Plus this month. Then Modern Warfare 2 was last year, 2022. And obviously we've had Warzone sprinkled in for like the last 2-3 years now for Warzone. Yeah. But essentially, overall, including Call of Duty Mobile, the next one will be the 51st official Call of Duty entry in the series.
Indeed. Yeah, I mean, the leak's a bit basically. It's been rumoured that it's going to be Modern Warfare 3 for a little while, but what's basically confirmed it now is there's been leaked packaging for Monster Energy drink that's got the Modern Warfare 3 logo on it, like Captain Price. There's photos online. It looks like actual retail packaging for, when you get like a box of 4 cans of Monster with Call of Duty plastered all over it. It looks about as legit as you can get, to be honest. Yeah, either that or someone's went through a lot of trouble.
It's usually, if it's on an energy drink, it's official. that's the take.
And it feels I'm sure it's a partnership that's happened plenty of times before with Call of Duty and Monster Energy. So
if
it's even printed on the cans. So it's like,
if you're staying up for these midnight releases, you need to be necking some energy drink at 2 o'clock in the morning, because you'll definitely get to sleep later on. In terms of the game, though, it's I always forget how much Captain Price and stuff was included. But yeah, in this particular campaign, he's still hunting down Makarov. So it's very much characters that I recognise. I'm just going to pull the trailer up.
It's Soap still in this one. I can't remember. Gaz.
Yeah, well, that's it. This is why I've kind of got that itch, because I did thoroughly enjoy them, and it has been a good minute, probably like 15 years since I played some of them.
What about Nicki Minaj? Is she going to be in this one?
Oh, I bloody hope not.
She's coming to Call of Duty.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking at
Warzone.
Yeah.
Nicki Minaj and Lara Croft.
It's turned into Fortnite.
Yeah.
I have played Modern Warfare 3 extensively. Now I'm watching the trailer. I'm like, all these locations I recognise, all these scenes and settings. I remember playing this campaign.
It probably just blends into one a bit in your mind.
I think so, yeah. A lot of the maps, like the rooftop map, France, that famous, the one in France, can't remember how better to describe it, where it's like you go up the street and there's like, it's a really small compressed map, but yeah. Modern Warfare 3.
Nicki Minaj is actually apparently the most followed rapper on Instagram.
That doesn't mean anything. She does not belong in a war zone like
but
that.
She's joining less followed rappers such as Snoop Dogg and 21 Savage as playable characters as part of Call of Duty's 50 years of hip-hop celebration.
Why is Call of Duty celebrating hip hop? It's supposed to be representative of what modern warfare with guns, murder, battles, ships, submarines, tanks. Rap artists do not belong anywhere near this game.
I think it makes it a little better because it is part of a celebration rather than just like, oh, here's a new season Call of Duty. Do you want to play as Nicki Minaj? At least there's a theme going on with it.
What, they're going to celebrate the invention of the dildo next? Everyone's running around with dildo guns. It's not going to happen. I don't care if it's a celebration. This game's about modern warfare or Warzone warfare. It's just like,
don't you want a pink AK-47?
No. That's not good camouflage in a city or urban environment. You will be killed. Just like if it was a pink dildo, you would be killed.
Especially if you're the most followed rapper on Instagram, you're pretty iconic in terms of like recognizability. You walk along the battlefield and it's like, that's Nicki Minaj there. Wait, she's shooting at us.
Like, Fortnite gets a pass because that's what it has always been. It's colourful, it's cartoony, I get it. Yeah. Call of Duty, like, just to put it into context, remember every time a new Call of Duty game comes out and is announced, they could do like a 20-minute docuseries of, look how authentic the weapons are. We spoke to past soldiers to be faithful to the source material and honour the dead, essentially, because warfare is a horrible thing that's going on in today's world. And yet on the flip side, oh, but he's Nicki Minaj in a thong and she's shooting around and running. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, pick your side. Are you authentic to what you're aiming for? Or are you just dicking around with monetization and funny dances and TikTok trends? Like, pick your lane is what I'm saying, Call of Duty, and stay in it.
It's a weird one. It feels like this is a bit of an experiment, but it feels like an odd one. It feels like a bit too out there as an experiment. Can we get away with introducing pop culture into this? I feel
at least it's Warzone and not Modern Warfare 3. If Captain Price was suddenly teamed up with Nicki Minaj for the next mission, that would be like, what the hell? You've replaced
McTavish. It's all about Nicki.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Let us know in the comments below if you'll be checking out Nicki Minaj and Snoop Dogg in Warzone, or you'll be sticking to True Warfare with ghillie suits and radar.
Putting that aside, is Xbox's sales on the rebound? And this is news that Windows and devices have took a hit in Microsoft's Q4 earnings, but Xbox is mostly up. The PC market is still suffering, but Xbox content is doing a bit better this quarter than previously expected. In compared to like the PC. So Microsoft has just posted the fourth and final quarter of its 2023 fiscal financial results that I'm reading from The Verge right now. The software maker made $56.2 billion in revenue. Not bad. Not bad at all.
Not bad when you're about to spend 78 on Activision.
Yeah, but this
for all those Nicki Minaj skins.
But this is the numbers for one, and the net income. It's a net income of $20.1 billion dollars in Q4. So that's the 20.1 billion is the more relevant number, really. Yeah. But that basically means Activision Blizzard's paid off in a year.
Not bad, is it?
Not bad at all. The revenue is up by 8%, and net income has increased by 20%. Which I think is I think the surprise comes because I don't think Microsoft have had a good year so far. Well, Xbox
it's always a
has
hard one to tell because I think sometimes we forget like the tendrils these companies have that branch out, and we spoke about it quite a lot with like Google and their Stadia division, and sometimes their other technology like minus Wi-Fi getting shit at the moment. What Amazon do, what they're up to with the streaming services, and Microsoft wanting to acquire Activision Blizzard King for specifically the mobile content rather than Call of Duty. And it just shows you, though, how much money there is to be made, whether it's up or down. This is like astronomical stuff, but they'll always be around. Windows, Microsoft, they're just going to be in existence forever, aren't they now?
Indeed, yeah. So, to be honest, I don't want to delve too deep into this. It's just worth knowing that, Xbox is doing okay. After the first 6 months of the year, it's been kind of a bit doom and gloom for Microsoft, especially with things like Redfall and how well that came out. That felt like a really low point. Like was it April? Like, yeah,
it was a sad time. But
and then again, feels like there's a lot of pressure on Starfield.
But again, this is what back to the team and Phil said during the FTC court conversations: is that we're in third place. But we are also like 50-60% up on what we were in the 360 generation. So even though we were top on the 360 generation, we're still financially better off now than we ever were back then by like tenfold. Game Pass is up percentage-wise. Overall gaming revenue is up. Like, we might be in third place, but being third place in a business that's worth hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars, that's still profitable. That's still worthwhile having your foot in the pool with that one. And I think Microsoft know that. And I think, again, there's enough of the pie to be shared where you can spend money all over the place and still make it. But again, I think the future is good for Microsoft and Xbox and the brand. I think it's in a good place.
I agree. Hopefully the games that come out will deliver. But you know what about to deliver, Chris? Some Game Pass games for August 2023.
Do tell.
So the list of games that we have confirmed for Game Pass 2023 are Celeste.
Great game.
I thought it was already there, to be honest.
It might be one of... This is the come and go things with Game Pass that we don't really know because they don't necessarily publicise them that much, but Celeste is terrific.
But August the 1st comes out. Broforce Forever, August the 8th. Love a bit of Broforce.
Broforce. Yeah, fun title.
Yeah. Everspace 2 comes out August the 15th. And should say Celeste is console, PC and cloud. Broforce Forever is console and to be decided whether it's coming to PC and cloud. Everspace 2 is Series X and S. No mention of cloud yet. Texas Chainsaw Massacre comes out August the 18th, which is console, PC. Unknown if it's going to come to cloud. And Sea of Stars is coming to console on August the 29th, which we'll talk about a bit about Sea of Stars on Talking to PS tomorrow.
Yeah,
but hotly anticipated because it's coming to PlayStation Plus as well.
Yep, brand new, day one, retro-inspired turn-based RPG. So if you're into your older style Final Fantasy games, this game looks gorgeous. Yeah. And evidently you can play it for free, so check it out.
Yeah, I mean, Broforce, over 40,000 overwhelming positive reviews.
It's a fun game.
Yeah, it's just straight up fun. I think we might have to do a stream of Broforce Forever when it comes out.
And Forever's the kind of not Game of the Year edition, but like the complete edition, right? Because Broforce has been out for quite some time.
I thought it was just a second game.
Oh, is it? I thought it was...
I will confirm that.
Broforce Forever. Final update trailer is getting a massive Broforce update for F43 error. That's good to know. Thank you, GameSpot.
A major expansion to the game named Broforce Forever. It's basically an expansion to Broforce. So yeah, you're right. It's basically the complete edition version
with everything.
Well, yeah,
not too bad.
And other than that, what else did we have?
Dashboard.
Yeah, there's an update of the dashboard. I think mine has updated, but my first impressions were I didn't really even notice it updated.
Yeah, it's. I know Xbox The Wire posted a blog about it this week saying welcome to new Xbox dashboard, and they've been working on it behind the scenes, working with the community to basically tweak things. The few things they've added is made it easy to find your library, separate the Microsoft Store, the Game Pass search, and your settings at the top of your home screen. So they've kind of broke those down to like a little icon rather than be a tile unto themselves. Because sometimes it did make me wonder like why I've got a big green cog taking up like a chunk of my screen when it's like I don't need that space utilised for that. They've limited, so you've got your personalised backgrounds. They've kind of moved the icons down a bit, so you've got more real estate for your background wallpaper, which I know a lot of people do love the customisation element of that. And then pinning your most recently played apps or games across the top list as well. So the thing with dashboards is they are essentially just portals into what we play. We spend all of 60 seconds there at best. As long as it looks clean and tidy and it's simplistic enough to use. Does.
This is my thing. I think there's still too much stuff. I go back to the PS4 and go, they nailed it there. I liked how simple it was. I liked how clean it was. I liked how you could just make folders so you could organise your stuff. Mm-hmm. And I don't think even the PS5 I think is worse than the PS4's. Like, and still, I don't know, especially with things like Game Pass and cloud gaming, when you're going to have potentially lots of games at your fingertips. I want a good, clean way to organise them that is intuitive, so I'm not having to go into multiple menus to add a game to a certain list, then to put that list on my dashboard, because it just becomes clunky. I just want to be able to set up a folder and go, Game Pass games going here. These are games that I can play on the cloud. Done.
Yeah.
or these are my multiplayer games, these are my first-person shooters, without, I don't know, I just don't think it's intuitive. I also don't like the fact that the Xbox is running through the Microsoft Store. It
that is a bit of an odd one.
just doesn't quite, it's not as clean as I'd like it to be still.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, it's always a work in progress. They do say at the bottom of the blog post, it's rolling out now. Some Xbox customers may get it in a few weeks' time, so just hold on for the rollout. But yeah, thanks for your feedback. As always, we look forward to hearing what you think and building on it together. So it's always in motion. It's always changing. Again, for me, it's just coloured tiles. It's not like I ever get lost. I'm never on the Xbox or PlayStation or Switch going like, oh my word, I'm stuck in the fifth sub-menu and I don't know where I'm at. It's not like that. It's very much I can find what I need to if I can. It's quite intuitive. So could be tidy, it could be different, but more real estate for wallpaper backgrounds I'm all about. More customization options I'm all about. And it's good to see that Microsoft are listening, because I think when I look at my PS5, I can do nothing with that. Like not even wallpaper. Look at the Switch. Black and white, Richie. They're your two options. The Switch has been out for, 6 years now? That's all you've got. Black theme, white theme. Great.
Indeed. And you know what we actually have, Chris?
What?
We have the last ever Games with Gold lineup.
Really?
Indeed. And there's 2 games coming to Games with Gold with a value and gamer score of 2,000 or $39.98. And they are Blue Fire and Inertial D. Inertial Drift.
Initial D. This is why it's been killed, because there's nothing that's been offered in the last several years where I've looked at it and thought, man, I really need Games with Gold.
Blue Fire was okay. I played a bit of that on Stadia, I think, back in the day. I think it was a Stadia Pro game at one point.
You know what? If they were giving me Remnant 2, I might care a little bit. But goodbye, rest in peace, Games with Gold. We'll enjoy you as part of Games Pass core going forward.
We never got your view on this, because you went on XPass last week. What are your thoughts on Xbox Core?
It seems a bit pointless. I think they would have been better just closing Games with Gold and just having Game Pass exist in its place. But I think it's more from a transitional standpoint, so they can migrate the remaining however many thousands, maybe millions of Games with Gold subscribers over without having to disrupt their payment process or getting to unsubscribe or have to maybe legally cancel to sign up to something new with their own terms and conditions. I think Core being so close to Games with Gold, with albeit a bigger library, let's face it, the games in the Game Pass Core list, is it 20 or 30 games you get initially off the bat to play?
Something like that, yeah.
There was a list, wasn't it, that put out? I think that was a big enough reason to maybe jump over, because it's damn sight better than the 2 games they've just listed for the month of August. You get them by default. And but I think Game Pass is great. I just don't think it needed becoming more convoluted with another tier.
A tier that it makes no financial sense either.
Yeah.
If you don't have Game Pass and you look at it, I think it's £1 a month more.
And it doesn't come with online, right?
That's the confusion. Core clearly states it has online. Game Pass Ultimate clearly states it has online. PC and console don't say anything about online.
Yeah.
So they've muddied the branding.
Yeah.
By adding this extra thing that feels unnecessary. It's £1 different to get Game Pass console. It's the same price for PC Game Pass. It's just I don't know. It's
yeah.
I feel they just needed to have this thing so they could move everyone over who's currently got Gold straight into Core,
and then they'll phase that out,
effectively having to commit people to that extra £1. Because they couldn't just up it. It might be difficult for them to just up the price, but I don't know. I think
it's like with anything legacy. They need the path of least resistance to get it over to the new stuff, and I genuinely just think it's probably an easy way to rebrand it to this and then phase out Core in 2 years' time or something. It'll be.
I think the move I would have done is send an email to everyone who has Games with Gold and go, right, we're getting rid of this. It's going. We will give you 2 months of Game Pass Ultimate for free.
Yeah.
It won't auto renew. So you have 2 months to make a decision what you want to go on to. So we're going to give you the top end one for basically the same price, for the price that you're paying for Games with Gold, And then after that, it's done. Then you go into Game Pass. You pick which one makes sense for you. And I don't think I would have bothered with COD to begin with at all.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
Yeah.
It goes back to kind of like PlayStation in their convoluted PlayStation Plus lineups as well.
Yeah.
Like, what have you got? Like, if I said to you now, what are the 4 PlayStation Plus tiers?
Oh God.
And I say 4 because remember, to make things even more complicated, there's 3 in most of the world, but in Asia there's an extra one.
Right. So there's Premium.
Yeah.
Is it actually Core? Is Core one of them? There's
Nope.
Essential.
Yeah, that's the bottom one.
Essential, Premium. It's the middle 2 that I can never remember. And actually, the weird thing is, it's the middle one is one that I would actually recommend people to go for. Premium,
Yeah, you're talking
Essential.
Extra.
Extra, yeah.
And there's another one which you'll probably never get, which is the one for Asian markets, I believe, where maybe internet infrastructure wasn't right or something. I can't remember what the reason was. Deluxe.
Yeah.
PlayStation Plus Deluxe. It's so messy. Like, just give us 2. Game Pass should be Game Pass Ultimate and normal Game Pass.
Yeah, I don't mind them having a different split for PC because there's some stuff that works on PC that doesn't. So it's like you got console, PC, and Ultimate. Console and PC go, okay, I know what they are. One's for PC, one's for console. Ultimate gives you everything.
Mm-hmm.
Done. Nice and clean. Easy to recognise.
But where can I play Remnant 2?
Wherever you want, Chris.
Which Game Pass? None of them?
None of them. It's not on Game Pass, unfortunately. But Remnant 2 looter shooter meets Souls-like in this strong-sounding sequel, and the reviews are in, and it's doing really well. IGN's give it a 9 out of 10. It's astounding to think that if I were to create a list of my favourite Souls-like, my favourite looter shooters, and my favourite procedurally generated games, Remnant 2 would appear in all of those lists. This is a triumphant sequel that doesn't just reimagine Souls-like genre as a co-op looter shooter, but also absolutely nails the concept in nearly every way.
Yeah, and this is why I wanted to make sure we get to Remnant 2, because I couldn't visualize what the first one looks like. But in a year, as we said time and time again, in a year where we're getting so many quality games that have came out, to see this Remnant 2 sneaking in here in the peak of summer with like 9s and like 8s and 9s across the board from like everyone,
It feels like it's come out of nowhere.
Yeah, and it's like, you know what, credit where credit's due, and I think because it's not maybe our type of game, it's been easy to just like put it down the news dock a little bit. But anyone out there who's looking for a game, like, in my mind, it looks very similar to Outriders, which is a good thing. But as you said,
less confused in its marketing.
Yeah, and then looter shooter wise, it looks great. Yeah, it looks fun. And it's one of those titles I look at and I think, you know what, if I had the time, I'd probably thoroughly enjoy this. Bit more of a sci-fi space twist with like monsters and aliens and stuff than you would get in, say, The Division or something. But as you said in that brief description there, it seems to have the balance just perfect. And I hope it gets its due, because I like to see games that maybe from like lesser known studios come out. And in a year that's so busy, bless it, it'll probably be swept under the rug. But when you've got like Diablo as well, was another one we've not mentioned. Like, this game is just... It's slot into the busiest, probably the worst year it possibly can do, but yeah. I don't want to take away from it, because 9s and 8s is like is great for a game that wouldn't probably be perceived as AAA. Maybe it's a triumphant sequel, so good to see.
Published by Gearbox. Pricing's not bad either. That might be helping it a bit.
Published by Gearbox.
Starting from $49.99 for the standard edition dollars. I haven't checked the UK pricing, and going up to $69.99 for the Ultimate Edition. So the Ultimate Edition is the price of a normal AAA game nowadays.
That's good to know.
So yeah, and if you're interested, I'm not going to read through what you get, perks you get for the Ultimate Edition. There is a Deluxe Edition in the middle as well. But
yeah, I mean, looking at just some of the comments on the IGN gameplay trailer, 9 out of 10 for sequel, really high praise. As a huge Remnant from the Ashes fan, really pleased to see the game as a huge hit and it gets a wider audience it deserves. First game was an underrated gem. Glad that the team had an opportunity to make a sequel. Never heard of this game until now. This is exactly what I've been looking for. Can't wait. The game was one of my favourite co-op games of all time. Happy to see this one doing well. This game's amazing. Please support this developer. They've earned their keep. So, like, the comment section, surprisingly, like, for the internet, very good. Wow, I'm intrigued by this. This is a real game. This is the team the creators wanted to make. great review. Hell yeah, glad they nailed it. So, weirdly enough, the comment section on an IGN video as well, very positive, which again goes to a testament of the devs have done probably everything right, bar market it, because I'm guessing the budget limits how much they can market this kind of thing. But yeah, if you're a big fan of it, part of me is like, it's a shame it's not a Game Pass game, because we probably would have played it this week and been like, hey, that was bloody fun. But instead, we played FIFA, which is already popular. Which, if you ask me again, in hindsight, Richie, I would have probably rather have played Remnant 2 this Thursday than FIFA.
True, but then I wouldn't have played with you because I can't afford it, and I don't really want.
No, if it was Game Pass.
If it was Game Pass, 100% we're playing it. It would have been an obvious choice.
Yeah,
I know a lot of other creators that we've worked with in the past have been playing it, so shout out to everyone who has, because it does look like a cool game. It looks interesting. But you know what does look well? It's interesting.
Tasty,
yes. Potentially, no, I don't know if it tastes like pizza, but Xbox has officially created the world's first ever pizza-centered controller.
Why do you do this?
It's a tie-in with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem movie.
Which looks
why
good.
the hell does this exist?
Promotional, viral Twitter reasons. That's right. It's the exact reason, same reasons Nicki Minaj exists in Call of Duty Warzone. It's all about marketing something so ridiculous that it gets shared, it gets screenshot, it gets put into WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups and stuff, just so people can go, can you believe someone was crazy enough to make this? It not only is it a pizza-centered controller, Rich, you actually have to put little drops of the pizza scent into the battery compartment, like a vape.
It comes with like a diffuser, so it's just like an Xbox branded controller that has like all the Ninja Turtles on. The controls, I think, look amazing. They look fantastic. The artwork is top quality. And then it's got a stupid slice of pizza diffuser sticking out the top of it, which looks just ridiculous.
I'm guessing it can be played without the pizza slice.
I would assume so. In fact, in the promo image, it shows someone using it without, but the problem with this is, forget about the stupid sense things. It's just a stupid gimmick. And to be honest, you're going to go in one go. If I had one, you mess around, you plug it in, go, look, it smells like pizza. Then you put it back in the drawer and never use it again. Yeah. You have to have all 4 controllers. Could you just buy one?
No, you need the whole team, don't you?
Yeah.
Donnie, Mikey, Leo.
It would be amazing if you had a bunch of kids and you were buying an Xbox for them, and they go, you know what, I'm going to buy all 4 of them. That'd be fantastic. Just have that set. But
well, that's it. The best thing you could do is buy the set, keep it, and sell it in many, many years' time, sealed, when it's worth more money for being a unique piece of history, rather than actually playing it because it smells of pizza.
Yeah. Do you think we might see more scratch and sniff controllers coming forward?
I mean, if you did ask me before last week, would this have been a thing? I'd have said no. But then now I've seen it, I'm like, is there anything they won't do for promotion purposes over at Xbox? We got a Porsche console which looked terrible. We've got pizzas, we've got clothing for your controllers. Where does it stop, Richie?
But your controller gets cold in winter.
But where does it stop? What's next? Dildos in Call of Duty Warzone?
It might be interesting, like a concept for like VR to get that extra level of immersion.
Maybe
you have a lot of different scents and stuff, and like it mixes or something based on the environment. So if it starts raining in the game, you kind of get a rain smell to get that extra level of immersion, and then you just have to pay someone for square you in the face.
Where does it end? Where does it end?
But I mean, I think the controllers, ignoring the stupid gimmick, do actually look fantastic. But that's all we have time for this week. If you've liked the video, make sure you hit that like button. Consider becoming a member for as little as 99p over on the YouTube channel at Helix Plays Games. Check out our socials such as Threads, which we're trying to grow that, because it looks like potentially Threads might take off, as Twitter, formerly known, the social media platform formerly known as Twitter, and now known as X for some God knows reason. We're still over there. We have a Discord server where if you want to write in with ideas, topics, or things that, and just have a general good conversation with some awesome people. All the links that you need are in the description below. Make sure you check out Talking the PS tomorrow on YouTube and podcast services. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Richie.
I've been Chris.
GG everyone. Goodbye.